Okay, so we're just continuing here. As you can see, we've just been asked to descend to 13,000 feet. I'll probably change the bank angle up to 25 coming up because of the steeper turns here. And I'm just going to prepare the aircraft. Obviously, passenger signs on. We're not at 10,000 feet yet, but at 10,000 I'll pop on the... As you can see, it's a bit gusty at this altitude. We've got gusts coming in. You know, it's sort of like, you know, whenever you get a sort of a following wind, it's always a little bit dicey, or a headwind on the aircraft for an angle. You'll probably get a little bit of a bounce, certainly at 4750, but it wasn't as bad as what I was striking yesterday, which is good. So now we're just dropping down to the 13,000, and we'll be heading into here. It's going to get a little bit more busier here. I'll probably get the speed back down, and the reason being is that you want to decrease the speed so you can drop the speed a little bit faster, so you can expedite that down. You can see it's not too far to go to be able to get into landing at Portland, which is over here. The terrain radio, I'm just going to put the terrain radar on. As you can see, as we make this approach, you'll see that it gets fairly close to the mountains, which I think is, you know, it's, you know, obviously again you're under a visual flight. You're not under visual flight rules. It's under instrument flight rules, so therefore you're being followed. But certainly, if you're on a light wing or general aviation, light wing type aircraft, then you're going to be, it's going to be important to you. Okay, so it's coming down to 15,000. Now we probably, you know, possibly don't need auto brake or anything like that. We'll probably still select it. If you want to reduce the speed, even though I'm dropping at 2,000 feet per minute and the speed's fairly high, you can actually just invoke the speed brake, you know, a little bit, just to bring the... And if I just pop outside, you can see I'm just dropping the aircraft speed down a little bit, just to drop it down. As you can see that the speed brakes are set. It's got down to 270. So we'll just bring that right down now to, you know, around the 210 mark, which of course is what Portland is. And probably throw some flaps in, but we can't have the aircraft going too fast, otherwise again we'll come against those caution indicators, in which case then you're running the risk of damaging the aeroplane. Or so we're at 13,000 feet, and just bring up that A2C again. It hasn't asked us to drop it back. Okay. Yeah, 20 knots. Down to 5,000 feet.
Descend and maintain 5,000 feet. Keep speed below 210 knots. Qantas 1211 heavy.
And we'll just throw in some speed. So we're giving it 190. The speed brake can just go back into arm position. So the speed brakes will come up. Portland's over there somewhere. See another plane coming in. We've got auto throttle's been turned off, which is so I have pushing a stick forward. I have no idea why that's suddenly turned off. So just
Qantas 1211 heavy contact Portland approach on 118.1.
Don't know what, there must be some button I accidentally pushed or something.
118.1 Qantas 1211 heavy.
Okay, so that's good.
Portland approach Qantas 1211 heavy is out of 11,600 feet for 5,000 feet.
Qantas 1211 Heavy Portland approach. Continue to Voodoo as planned. Altimeter 30.42.
So it's still not told me what the autopilot seems to be off as well, and LNAV should be on. So I have no idea why that all suddenly had a bit of an issue. To be going down to 5,000 feet. Had a mind of its own then. That's okay, we're back recovered. Without panicking. So you can see where we're heading to here. I've still got terrain on. You'll see that come into effect.
FedEx 781, please expedite your descent to 3,000 feet.
So just zoom up on that. And we'll just set another notch of flap. We'll just bring that down the speed. You'll get used to this, I must say, as far as, you know, speeds and flaps and stuff. There are if you look at your approach charts, then what happens is it will tell you what the speed should be at certain approaches, depending on which particular runway you're coming, or the approach that you're using. And the transition of course is the actual way to get to that runway, is how you're going to be doing it. That's the transition. So you get different points of transitions to be able to go onto runways. So we're coming up to Voodoo now. Just going to do a right hand turn. We've got the magentas, diamonds coming up, and of course we're going to be using it on the instrument landing system. We're not striking too much speed, as you can see. It's only and we're just waiting for a call out of probably which runway we're going to be using. I should have had the runway lights. Oh, the runway lights were on, so that's good. And there'll be another right hand turn here. As you can see now, these hills come into play. You'll see that in the terrain probably as well. So now this one here is a fairly steep turn coming in, so which is a little bit threatening, isn't it? So I'll just bring that back on magnification and send out some more flaps, and then we'll just we'll probably put some gear down.
FedEx 781, descend and maintain 2,300 feet.
Sticking at that at the moment. We're at 5,000 feet. Now the reason why is because obviously these hills up here.
And maintain 2,300 feet. FedEx 781.
That's still a few thousand feet below me anyway, so I probably don't have to worry about it
FedEx
too much.
781, you are 8 miles northwest of Portland. Contact Portland Tower on 118.7 when inbound on the approach.
So there's the terrain. That could come into play if you're a bit too close. There's going to be a sharp left-hand turn coming up.
Tower on 118.7 FedEx 781.
And I probably won't even pull down another notch of flap. And as you can see, the attitude is quite nice weather. And obviously that's where we're going to be landing. So it's all set, ready. We will be, when the localizer, so this magenta, when it's in the middle or close to the middle, we'll be flipping on the localizer to line up on the airport. And then when this magenta is in the middle, which it is at the moment, it's steadily going up because we're moving away from the airport. But when it is, we'll be hitting the approach button, which lines up the glide scope just perfect.
Heavy, you are 17 miles
There we go.
northwest.
10 right.
Maintain present heading and
Perfect.
altitude. Expect ILS runway 10 right approach by
That's
escapo
exactly what
transition.
we're doing by escapo,
Clear
and
to
that's what we
escapo.
set. So that's great news. We're going to do a left-hand
Maintain
turn
present
here,
heading and altitude. Expect ILS runway 10
and
right
that magenta
approach by
comes back
escapo
down again.
transition. Clear to escapo.
Then what I'll do is I'll be
1211
flipping
heavy.
on the approach button. So if I zoom out now as it's doing a hard left-hand bank, I'll keep the speed at 180 for the approach. Just flying it very nicely. Just going to line up on the
Qantas
runway.
1211 heavy descend and maintain 4,000 feet.
4,000 feet. And then we'll just
Descend and maintain 4,000 feet. Qantas 1211 heavy.
okay. We're coming in behind that aircraft there.
Qantas 1211 heavy descend and maintain 3,100 feet.
3,100 feet. Now, if you want to change the,
Descend
just
and
click
maintain
that button there,
3,100 feet.
and that
Qantas
gives you the
1211
hundreds.
heavy.
Alright, so just be mindful of that one. So now we can zoom back out again, just a fraction, so you can see that we're coming around, and then we have to just line up on the correct runway for landing. So it's saying it should be up higher. In actual fact, the right-hand turn for this, we're doing a right-hand turn now, but I feel that the approach and everything isn't quite correct, because there's the runway there. That's the right-hand runway, so we are definitely not in the correct spot for this, so we're not going to be able to make that, so I'm going to take it off and I'll fly the plane into the correct position. And I'll flip it back
Qantas
on again.
1211 heavy, you are 14 miles northwest of Portland. Contact Portland Tower on 118.7 when inbound.
And we should be up a bit higher, it says.
Tower on 118.7 Qantas 1211 heavy. Portland Tower Qantas 1211 heavy 13 miles northwest. Inbound ILS runway 10 right approach.
Okay. So we get a
American
bit.
Golf Alpha Juliet 863 cleared for takeoff runway 10 left.
Okay, just bring that back down. We're landing about 155.
Portland Tower. Cleared ILS runway 10 right approach. Altimeter 0.37 wind calm.
The plane's coming
Horizon
in
Air
fairly slow.
2581 turn next taxiway.
So
Cleared
launch the
ILS runway
flaps.
10 right approach. Qantas 1211 heavy.
So for some reason the
Cleared for takeoff runway 10 left generic
it didn't
Golf
really
Alpha
show
Juliet 863.
it being correct for the landing. I don't know why the approach wasn't. I haven't struck that before.
Horizon Air 2581 exit runway when able.
Now I'm keeping an eye on the magenta for attitude. Okay, so it's just lining up nicely now. So now I can probably put on the approach. And I'll flip the autopilot and then approach. which is that one there. And it should be able to line, because it's lined up everything here, magenta and the magenta there. So I was lucky I did that. And it's going to center it up for me. So we're keeping the speed at 160 knots. I've got a 170 there. But yeah, that will bring us down, and then I'll just float this baby in. We've got, as you can see, the wind's at 9.1 at 05, so it's just, you know, it's perfect for landing. Turn off the, turn off the weather terrain.
Follow the aircraft on final. Wind 12 tree at 7. Caution the generic landing runway 10 right.
Okay, so
Delta 1409er exit runway when able. Qantas 1211 heavy clear to land runway 10 right.
now I am going to be
Follow the
coming in
generic
here.
on the runway.
The generic runway is just going to be too slow to get off for
Caution
sure.
the generic landing runway 10
So
left.
that's when VATSIM and everything comes into play here, you know, pretty well compared to the Microsoft program.
1211 heavy.
So I'm just going to come in here, and probably at about, I'm at 1200 feet now, I'll probably just take over myself. So just kill the throttles, kill everything, and I'll just keep on the same approach, just keeping the magentas where they are, and being as so low and knots I won't drift too far anyway. It's saying it should be
Going to 127.85 generic 863.
okay.
Delta 1409er exit runway when able.
That's going to ask me to go around for sure, but I'm not going to be obviously doing that. So I need to go a bit further left here. Making it a bit of rudder.
Delta 1409er exit runway when able. Qantas 1211 heavy go around.
See, it's asked me to go around. Well, that ain't gonna happen. Gotta get on the deck. Now, as you can see in front, look at that.
Qantas
See?
1211 heavy. Did you hear
Kaboom.
my last transmission?
No. And then I can,
Delta 1409er
that's my
exit
reverse
runway
thrust
when
on.
able.
I don't require that. That's good. And then up goes the flaps. And I can brake. And now we're going to be, because we're 10 right, we're going to be turning left.
Qantas 1211 heavy, please acknowledge.
And it's, yep, so that's where the issues happen with the ATC and Microsoft. So
Delta 1409er, turn next taxiway.
as you can see, we're coming around. And now we'll go park at the gate. I'm trying to remember which gate it was, but that's alright. You know, on the longer trips, what you can do is you can, you know, study some of the, you know which gate it's going to be. You've probably written it down and stuff. I'll probably go to the left here. From memory, it's off to the left anyway.
Delta 1409er exit runway when able.
It's one of these ones along here. I'll go to the next one. Wasn't too bad after all that. And it seems to be always a bit of a relief, isn't it?
Delta 1409er, turn next taxiway.
Yep. Okay, so I went a little bit too early for that one. Does have a vacant one, but that's alright. The planes room will just go a bit further down here. And we'll go this one.
Delta 1409er, exit runway when able.
That's a fairly steepish twist. There we go. And in we go.
Delta 1409er, turn next taxiway. Delta 1409er, exit runway when able.
Now when the airport's a little bit better, and you'll be able to have the markers for the where to stop the for the jet bridges, etc. So yep, so I'll just kill, obviously the parking brake goes down, and I'll just douse the engines, seatbelts off, and now I'm just going to connect the jet bridge down to ground, and right at the bottom is number 6 jetway connection.
Portland ground, Qantas 1211 Heavy. Could you please connect the jetway to the aircraft?
Don't think that was straight enough, but never mind.
Qantas 1211 Heavy, the jetway is going to be connected.
There we go. And look at that. Beautiful. And there you go. Now, just to summarize, you know, you could see that I took over because for some reason when I selected the approach, it didn't feed that into the flight management computer. It was going to just send me directly to the airport. I realized that I was going to do the heading correctly, and so I manually did that until I got to where the approach, using the both the localizer, well actually in this case I just went straight to the approach button, and the advantage of that of course is it sends you up correctly with the glide scope, where I got the magentas for both the altitude and also the correct direction. So yeah, it's and then of course I took over at about 1,000 feet and just came in manually, just sort of, you know, you want to make sure you touch the deck with the runway strips, you know, in that right position. But there was a plane on the runway, and you don't need to worry about the plane on the runway, because again Microsoft seem to have very slow getting off runways. They don't give enough separation and everything. Planes usually bolt off the runways pretty quick because they know there's another one about to land off behind. And there you have it. So if there's any questions you want, just leave it in the comments. Now that flight isn't like super advanced or anything. This allows you to be able to get into it, as I mentioned. So yeah, if you, like I said, if you probably felt that the toilets weren't cleaned properly or something, didn't do correctly, well, then that's, just go to one of the more experienced and advanced ones I'll do. This is just so people can really get into flying an airline proficiently, going from A to B, to keep their excitement up on the program. Okay, thanks a lot. So I'll go up to 250 and increase it to 2,000, going up to 11,000 feet. Rejected takeoff's been set back to 0, and when we get up to, we're at 5,000 feet now. I'm not expecting any issues. You can go to the weather radar, which is at WXR, and it will show you what to expect. Now, obviously, red and magenta colors, sort of like, storms and lightning and stuff. I tried a flight last night that was coming out of Miami, and the weather was just dire. So that's it's handy to be able to use the weather radar. You can check that before you take off. The terrain button, and what it's doing is that this terrain button shows you the terrain that could affect you. So it's Helens is there, so I think that's Mount St. Helens, which I think blew its stack there a while back. So those at this altitude, these mountains will come into play. So obviously it's fairly dangerous. It's quite an interesting, airport to take off from and land at because of the mountain range. It's probably be a bit like Switzerland. But as I get higher, this dissipates. So you get only the mountain tops would be, as I've been increasing my altitude, and you'll see things disappear here because they no longer become of interest to the aeroplane in the sense of, a cautionary side of things. I've got, as you can see, we're going up to 10,000 feet. At 10,000 feet, I'll switch off the landing lights, and obviously the ceiling's not too high for the cloud range. It's quite a good afternoon. We've got knots at 17 coming from the right hand side or from the east. So it's just changing to Seattle Center, and I'll flip the passenger signs off, and then it's just a case of coming into the approach, which I'll deal with in a second. But I was going to actually, just before I sign off here, is that I was going to show you that if you needed to, you can, as I've showed you previously, you can actually change your layers here for weather, your weather radars, etc. But yeah, you can actually just, if you need to find out where we're going to, which is, okay, so it's, okay, so it's just giving you the barometric pressure. Now, as you can see, it says there the KPDX, and then it's got a bunch of numbers, and the next set of numbers is 12010 KT. So it's 10 knots at 120 degrees. So that's where the wind. So this is where I can think about which runway it's going to actually come to when I'm. So if I go, so at 120. So the runway, if you go actually to the departure arrival and go to the arrival button, if you haven't done some homework on this already, we're probably going to be using 10 left or 10 right iOS because that's the closest to 120. That's 10 is 100 degrees, so the 120 degrees is where the wind's coming from. So we're going to be using one of these. So I think at Portland, 10 right will be, it will be, I think, the closest to the, 10 left might be the closest to the, it probably doesn't matter. I think Portland's on both sides of the, so we can just flip back actually. Go to Portland and bring up the airport diagram. And there they are, it's on either side. So here's the main terminal. So there's your 10 right, 10 left, so it's not going to make too much difference. It's probably going to select the longer of the two runways. To do that, yeah, so it's 9-8, it's 11, so it's probably going to be 10 right, we'll see.
Heavy, please expedite your climb to flight level 220.
Okay, 220. Okay, and then you have to push this button again, and then you're going to be pulling back. Yeah, it's nice evenings. Okay, right, so we've done that, and I was going to go back to that departure. So it's probably going to be 10 right. So what you do is just click that button, and there's 10 right. And that's the transition, scapo, I suppose, and hit the execute button. And if you do that early enough, then what happens is it gives you a better, gives you a lot better, in fact I think I've landed 10 left here previously, so it's probably going to do the same thing, but we'll see how we go. It gives you a better curvatures in bank rather than what the Microsoft did. So another little handy tip. Okay, we'll come back soon when we're starting our descent.